Alright, so now we're going to install and configure our security plugin. And for this, we're going to use iThemes Security Pro. So to install iThemes Security Pro, we've already got WP Toolkit installed and configured. So we go over to Plugins. We scroll down, looking for iThemes Security Pro. So it's a bit ways down. Alright, so here it is. You just click Install. And so this is why WP Toolkit is so helpful. If I were doing this manually, I'd have to manually upload the file and do all that stuff. So WP Toolkit allows me to install this much more easily. So click Activate, and WP Toolkit will handle all of the stuff in the background. So there's a lot of notes up here. We're going to actually go through a wizard, which will clear out most of those. So I'm just going to close those out now. Plugin is activated, so we can go over here and we're going to configure our security. Now you might be asking yourself why we're configuring security before we even have anything to protect. And from an IT perspective, that's the best time to do it. You set up security before you have anything to protect, and you know it's there. You don't have to worry about it. Once you set it, then you're just in maintenance mode. So you don't have to worry about it. And as you're adding content, if you run into a problem where security is creating an issue, you can find it as you're building instead of after the fact and watch it break everything all at once because you set your security too high. So this is kind of an advantage too. So if security is in place from the get-go, then you run into the problems along the way instead of having to fix a whole bunch of problems at once because you applied your security at the end. So when you go to security, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to ask to run a security check. And it's going to set up all these things for you automatically. And then we'll click Secure Site. It's going to tell you that network brute force protection has been activated. All you have to do is put in your email address. I'm going to have it go to a different address. And we'll activate our network brute force protection. And now we have all green checks. So we can run it again if we want, but it'll give us the same result. So that's the first step. So you run your security check, and if it doesn't come up for you automatically, you'll have an option to run it right here. Just click Show Details. So next thing we're going to do, we've already activated our local brute force protection. We will just see that we can look in here. It's going to permanently ban certain things. So these are all your things, all your options. Login attempts per host, 5 attempts. Max login attempts per user, 10 attempts. Minutes to remember a bad login attempt, so 5 minutes. And then we're going to automatically ban anybody who uses the admin username. Because remember, when we did our install, we did not choose the admin username. So we're going to immediately ban any host that attempts to log in with the admin username. Now, if you have already created a user with the admin username, what you would need to do is go in, you would need to add a new user, pick a name that isn't admin, obviously, it won't let you duplicate. You'll set that account up, you will log in as that new account, and you will delete the old admin user account. So that's the way you can do it. You can't change the username through the WordPress interface. You could change it through the backend SQL interface, but we're not going to get into that right now. You would create a new user, you would give it a different username, you would log in as that new user. As long as it's an administrator, then you can delete the admin username and assign all pages and posts to the new user that you created. So we'll save settings, and now we're good there. So the next thing we're going to go is we're going to look at our system tweaks. Some of the other things real quick, network brute force protection has already been enabled. SSL, this would be something very easy to enable. It's not entirely necessary. As you can see, we're already all HTTPS. But if you do this, you can lock down so that all links are automatically HTTPS, even if they're put in not as HTTPS. If you have links that aren't HTTPS in your code, it will trigger a mixed security warning on your site. So you could go in and enforce that. But let's go down to system tweaks, and we'll enable that, and we'll go down. All right, so we want to check all these. We want to protect our system files. We want to prevent directory browsing so people can't go to a folder that doesn't have an index page of some sort in it and see a list of all the files. This will block that if there isn't one. And then we're going to look and we're going to filter out different requests, different things that can be embedded in a URL that will trigger all kinds of different errors and alerts. So we look for the code before we pass it on. We look at the URL that's being passed in before it gets passed on to a plugin or to other PHP code or to the server, or to, which could compromise it. So we look out and we filter out a lot of the suspicious code. All right, we remove file write permissions. So that prevents a lot of things from overwriting your WP config file, which is important because that is how you access all your database settings. So nobody can go in. I disable PHP in my uploads folder. I don't do it on plugins or themes. A lot of plugins and themes do actually use PHP code, but I will disable it on my uploads so that somebody can't upload malware onto my site and then activate it. So we save those settings. Now we're going to go to WordPress tweaks, which is over here. It's already been enabled, so we will configure. Again, we're locking it down a little bit. We're going to remove some of the stuff. We're going to reduce comment spam. Just by default. Again, this helps when since we're not using Akismet, we're reducing our comment spam, and then we're also going to enable ReCAPTCHA. I disable all XML RPC just because I've seen it used as a denial of service attack against a website. It will break Jetpack, which I don't use, so not a big deal. It will break the WordPress mobile app. Kind of useful tool, but I think the security is worth losing that feature. I can still edit it through the browser on my tablet, so I'm fine with that. And it will disable pingbacks. I'm okay with that. We're already blocking multiple authentication attempts. We've got it restricted on the rest. We're going to disable login error messages because that will, because the error message will tell the person whether they got the wrong password or they got the wrong username. So if I disable that error message, they don't know what they've got wrong. So they don't know. If they get it that you got the wrong password, then they know they've got a right username. This way they don't know, and they have to keep guessing. Force unique nickname, useful. I'm going to be the only user on this site. It's not really necessary. Again, we've got some other features. Disable user's author page, post count of 0. That would be a way to identify what an author's name is that they could try to go to various author pages without logging in. So this way, if there's a user on here that doesn't have any posts or pages, they get locked out. This prevents some code from stealing your posts. And then this one, decide whether because right now by default, a user can log in with their email address or their username. I prefer just username because, as you saw, I didn't pick a very common username. And so they can learn my email address fairly easily. But learning my username is a lot harder. So we save that setting. All right, so the last thing I'm going to go over, there's a lot of settings you can go in and look at and set. Some of them are already set by default. But we're going to look at ReCAPTCHA. So that's over here. So I'm going to enable it, and I'm going to configure the settings. So with ReCAPTCHA, you have it tied to a specific Google account. so you have to have a Google account to use this feature. And then when you go, you get a site key. So we're going to open up Google ReCAPTCHA. So bring up in a new link. And then we have to, so you see this is my list of sites. So I'm going to create a new one. And so this is my PLR matrix site. So we'll go with ReCAPTCHA 2.0. And then our PLR matrix.com. This is my domain that's in there. I could add multiple domains. So if I had plrmatrix.net or whatever, I accept the terms. I'm not interested in getting alerts, so I'm going to register that. And now it's going to give me, these are the two keys that I need. So we're over here, and it's asking for two keys. So we'll copy paste the site key over. We'll copy paste the secret key over. And just in case you're wondering, I'm going to go in after this video is done and delete this reCAPTCHA and add it somewhere else. So these keys won't be valid by the time you watch this video. So, but just for your purposes, that's how you do it. I'm going to enable reCAPTCHA on login. I'm going to enable it on user registration, even though I don't plan on having user registration on the site. Not a bad idea. And I'm going to add it on new comments. So between this and the setting in the system tweaks that we set to eliminate spam comments, we're going to catch most of the comment spam that Akismet would have done anyways. So we save these settings. All right, so that's more or less, that's most of security. There's some other things. You can look at your malware scanning. Two-factor authentication is on by default. It will email it to you. I'm going to disable that because I'm not checking that mailbox very often. It'll automatically mail it to the email address tied to your user profile. Since I'm not checking that email very often, I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to disable two-factor authentication for now. But if you enable this, what it will do is when you log in, you will get an email to the email address tied to that user profile. You will that email will have a code, and on the website, after you log in, you'll come up with a prompt to put in that code. So you won't be able to get in until you log in and enter the code afterwards. So that's what two-factor authentication does. You can also set it up to work with an app on your phone, so you don't have to check your email. You can just pull up the app on your phone and put in the code that's there. But right now, we're just going to disable it. So I want to show you. So we'll go, and I'm going to go ahead and log out. And you'll see now I've got the reCAPTCHA on the login page. And it won't let me log in unless I click that box. Oh. All right. Okay, so we had a little bit of an error, as I'm sure you saw. Hadn't get the keys configured correctly, but I do have them now. So let me show you. I can log in, and if I don't check the box, I get no error at all, which is, remember, I'm blocking login errors, so that's good. But if I go in and I check the box, and you might go, well, what if, what's the big deal of having to check the box? I'm only checking the box because I'm logged in as a Google account. If I wasn't logged in, it would give me a series of pictures and say, pick all the pictures with the stop sign in it, for example. And I have to pick all the pictures, and then it would keep adding pictures until there were no more stop signs, and then it would let me log in. So now I can log in successfully, and you see the error is cleared up. So we have it configured. I hadn't copied the keys correctly, so we're good now. We have reCAPTCHA. We also have it on our comments. I don't have any pages or posts to show you that, but if someone were to go in and try to add comments, they would have to go through the same reCAPTCHA. And you say, well, that's no big deal. Anybody could just do that very easily. And well, that's fine. A person can do that, but a bot can't. And they're actually trying to make bots to do that, but this eliminates 95% of spam comments on your blog. These two settings in the security that we've gone over. So really, that's where you can't eliminate everything without making it completely unusable. I mean, sure, we could turn off comments altogether, but then that defeats one of the popular and most useful features of a blog is letting people comment, because that will help build your traffic and build the trust on your site, is by having comments and links in your site to other sites. And so that's why we don't turn it off entirely, but we do want to eliminate as much spam as possible. And then we'll go in and configure it for manual approval on all comments later on. But for now, we have our security installed. Our blog is a much safer place to be. And now we can start moving on from here.